Hey, what's up, you guys? Today I'm going to be making a lentils recipe that I found online. This recipe was super highly rated. This recipe turned out so good. Dan loved it so much that he even wanted me to make him some to take to work because he said it was that good and he wanted to have it again later. The plan going on in for me was to double the recipe. I plan to make a bunch and then freeze it for later because these lentils actually freeze very well. So yeah, I'm just using 2 potatoes for right now. I skinned them or peeled them, and then I diced them up really nicely. You want them to be in 1 inch or so cubes or half-inch cubes. You want it to be roughly the size of the lentils so that they cook within the amount of time you have to cook them, which should be only 30 minutes. You're also going to need roughly 6 carrots, which is a lot of carrots for me. On average, I don't really eat that many vegetables. I know I really should eat more, which is why I wanted to make this recipe in the first place, because it's packed full of potatoes and carrots and lentils, all good things, I would assume, for you. And also, I noticed while I was making this recipe, I kind of became somewhat of a carrot peeling, chopping pro. So if you want to up that skill, I would recommend making this, because at first when I started making this, just trying to peel and chop a carrot took me 5 minutes per carrot. Towards the end, I had a little method where I was halving them and then cutting those halves and halves and then lining those up and just dicing them really quickly. I don't know, I just felt kind of cool. I don't know if you noticed a second ago, but because I am so tired with the baby, I noticed I didn't really peel one of the carrots properly. So I had the knife and I was just angling it to just kind of peel it some more. I don't know, it worked. The carrot looked less dirty, so that was nice. You are then going to want to whip out your blender. I try to use this little NutriBullet situation because a giant blender just takes up way too much counter space, and I use the air fryer religiously, so it needs the space, and I can't have a big blender on the couch. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you're going to take 4 garlics if you're using the same amount of ingredients I am. If you're having it, just 2 cloves of garlic. I know if you're looking at this head on, that looks like I just have 2 cloves of garlic, but no. I found these garlics at my local Walmart, and for some reason they're jumbo garlics, so 1 garlic is the size of 2 garlics. So I'm just using 2 of those because it's less chopping, and honestly, you don't even really need to chop it. You just need to peel the garlic skin off and toss it in a blender. And then you're going to need 1 whole onion. Again, if you're making my measurements, you need 1 whole onion. I just cut off the little tips, and now I'm just cutting along the outside to peel off the skin. Just in case you don't know this, and if you're not in the kitchen that much, you have to take off the skin of an onion. That part's not edible. You don't eat that. If you made it this far, congratulations. Most of the strenuous chopping is done. There's no more heavy duty chopping, just a couple slices, and that's about it. But you're going to want to bring out your giant pot or your Dutch oven if you have one. This is my trusty pot. I've had it for a while. I know it looks how it looks because I've had it for a while, but it gets the job done. And I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil into that to lubricate the bottom. Once the pot is hot enough and it's you can fry an egg essentially, you're going to toss in your carrots and you're going to saute these for 3 minutes. But while that's going, we need to finish making the sauce that's going to go into the lentils. Here I have my knife. It's nice and sharp. So sharp I can just slice through these tomatoes like butter. But yeah, you're going to need 4 Roma tomatoes. Again, half the recipe to your discretion. And I'm just going to cut these in half. I'm going to cut these in half. And I'm just going to toss these bad boys into the blender because... yeah, honestly, at this point, I also realized I kind of messed up because all of these are definitely not going to fit into the blender, but I'm going to do my best. Also, I'm going a little off script. This is not part of the written recipe online. She uses 1 jalapeno for half the quantity I'm making, but I'm a little baby when it comes to spice, so I'm only using 1 jalapeno. But to each their own. anyways, yeah, I'm going to blend this portion now and then come back, make the space necessary to blend the rest of the tomatoes and jalapeno. At this point, guys, I knew I was moving a little treacherously. Like, this is like my second time in the span of like 10 minutes using a blender, knowing good darn well the baby is sleeping. So I don't know, my heart was palpitating a little bit. I was just like, oh my gosh, please stay asleep. Please allow me to finish cooking. But once you have that nice and incorporated, you're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of Mexican oregano. I just pinch it with my fingers, put it on the little thingamabobber measuring spoon, and toss it back inside the blender. Hold my breath as I blend this mixture together for the second time. And now we move back to the pot. Now, the carrots should be nice and cooked. Maybe, possibly, unless you're like me and forgot to get the cilantro from the store, like I said earlier. So now I'm painstakingly packing everything away. You know, very somber feeling in the kitchen. I'm putting it away because tomorrow we're going to continue this recipe because your girl done goofed. It was on the list. No, it wasn't on the list. I forgot to add it to the list altogether. So I guess that's a more accurate statement. But yeah, tonight we're just doing good old box mac and cheese because this is the only thing I prepped to do for the night. So yes, we will continue this in the morning. Okay, we're back with higher spirits and better energy, I hope. So it is the next day, and we're pretty much picking up right where we left off. Quickly, so the carrots have been cooking for 3 minutes now, and we are on the way. At this point, the recipe pretty much is done and done. It's been chilling. It's all going very well. Now we're going to add in our potatoes. All right, we're going to add in every single one of them. They only look like that because they oxidized slightly because, you know, we started this recipe maybe 7 hours ago right before the baby went to sleep, and now she's like awake and I went to the store and I came back. So yeah, that's why the potatoes look like that. So it'll be fine. It'll taste fine. So add 5 cups of water to the pot now. Now add 2 cups of dried lentils. Yep. Mix that around. Give that a good mix to make sure everything's nice and incorporated. And now we're going to add the cilantro, okay, and chicken bouillon. My bad. So you need to add enough chicken bouillon for 5 cups of water. Your chicken bouillon should have like measurements on the container for however much water you need for that, but add that amount of water. And there is the cilantro that I was talking about. It's 12 sprigs. I just pushed that down into the soup to make sure it's flavoring the liquids in the surrounding area. Give it a little mixy, and then we're going to cover this, bring it to a boil, turn it down to like a simmer, and let it go for 30 minutes. And like I said, just like that, you got lentil soup. You have a lot of it. If you made it to the specifications that I made it, you have a lot of lentil soup now, and it's delicious. In the thumbnail and in the clip I showed you in the beginning of this video, I'm eating it with rice, which is also a very good idea because combining lentils with rice makes it a complete protein. The more you know. It's the fact that lentils alone don't have all the essential amino acids needed by the human body that the human body does not make on its own in order to be considered a complete protein, but rice has the other amino acids. So when you combine the two together, it forms a complete protein. If you don't believe me, Google it. I've already Googled it. That's how I know. But anyways, I give it one last good mix, and it's pretty much done. The potatoes are soft. The carrots are cooked. Like I said, I put it in a bowl with the rice, and I add cilantro. I add cotija cheese, and I add love, and then it's done. And I add a lime wedge.